right, guys. Cedar Point, arguably one of the best amusement parks in the world. A 364-acre park located off the Lake Erie Peninsula in Sandusky, Ohio. Originally opening in 1870, it wasn't until 1892 that the park received its first roller coaster, the Switchback Railway. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, Cedar Point discovered a new formula for success. It heavily invested in roller coasters designed to capture the attention of parkgoers, submitting itself as the roller coaster capital of the world. It was during this time that the park seen the addition of Wildcat, Corkscrew, and Gemini. When Cedar Point recognized the strong interest from parkgoers for these rides, it knew their formula was a big part of their success. Cedar Point continued operating under this formula with the addition of Demon Drop, Disaster Transport, and Magnum XL200. In part, the huge success of Cedar Point relied heavily on this formula of bigger, better, and faster. And this worked. Cedar Point consistently introduced larger, more thrilling roller coasters, becoming synonymous with cutting-edge amusement technology. Each new ride outdid the previous one in many respects, pushing the boundaries of speed, height, and design. This consistent innovation kept visitors coming back, eager to experience the next big thrill. This commitment to continually raising the bar worked until it didn't. You see, there are essentially, in my opinion, three different types of park goers. In the first category, you have your individual or maybe young adult kind of teen that falls into this category. And generally, these are people between the ages of 14 and 25 who are visiting the park for a day or two on their own or maybe with a group of friends. School field trips kind of fall into this category as well. And really, for this group, they may be purchasing a day pass or the special bundle 2-day pass. They're going to pay for parking, and they're going to generally spend a little bit of money on food in the park. In total, the average person that falls in this category is spending between $90 and $120 to visit, depending on if it's a 1 or 2-day visit. For this category, most people don't have a lot of discretionary funds to spend. So really they're going into the park with kind of the cash that they have in their wallet or their purse. On the other hand, the second category is the amusement park kind of professional. These are people who really are roller coaster enthusiasts who want to visit the park for the ride credits and are going to visit multiple times over the course of a year, and they're very strategic on how they plan out their visit. For them, they generally purchase a season pass with a meal plan, and on average, kind of just based on numbers that I've gotten from peers that I've spoken with, they visit the park a minimum of 6 times. And then there's the third and final category. And this is the family category, who are much more likely to treat a visit to Cedar Point as a vacation. Myself included, my family, I have 4 children, my wife and I, and when we go, we are going to spend at least 2 days at the park. We're driving there. We live about 3.5 hours away. And really, when you're going for 2 or more days, a season pass is the cheapest route to go. Most families are also looking at hotel reservations, a lot of times on site, so we are going to factor that in. Meals, which every single time that we've ever gone, we've always planned on eating before going into the park and then eating when we leave the park, so that way we're not purchasing food in the park. But for any parent, you know that as soon as you get in and you get to the back of the park, your kids are hungry. And I'm not talking about hungry, I'm talking like starving hungry, so you have to buy food. And then again, anytime that you have kids, you know you're going to have to get drinks, and they're going to want to spend money on the arcade. And then before you leave, because it is a vacation, you're likely to spend money on ice cream or some kind of other treat. When you factor all that in, the average family is spending, according to the numbers I have here, a little over $1,500 to $2,000 for the weekend. Again, that's factoring in season passes, hotel accommodations, meals, drinks, some money that got spent in the park, and getting ice cream on the way out. That's a heck of a lot of money when compared to the other prior categories that we just discussed. And I think Cedar Point isn't understanding that really their target audience is families. So when they consistently are introducing rides that are bigger, better, and faster, that worked up to a certain point. But because they're limited on the amount of space that they have, and even if they had unlimited space, you can't have unlimited rides because there's a point of kind of cost return or cost competitiveness where you can have all these rides, but the cost to maintain them just inflates beyond what the park can generate from park visitors. And really, a 364-acre park, they're really maximizing the space that they have, and I think they're on target for that, and they're making some really good decisions as to ride placement. It's just the type of rides that they're struggling with. And for me, there's three categories of roller coasters. We have our kid coasters, which are roller coasters that are designed for kids. You have family coasters, and then you have your true category of exciting, thrilling coasters. Things like Magnum XL, Magnum XL200, Banshee, all these other rides that are kind of your top tier coasters. And really, that family category is really falling to the wayside. Essentially, family rides, in my opinion, fall under Iron Dragon, Cedar Creek Mine Ride, and Gemini kind of being on the higher end. Now, yes, I'm very much generalizing here. There are much larger coasters that kids will ride, and that does happen pretty regularly. But for the most part, most parents don't want to wait in a line for 2 or 3 hours to get on one of those rides or to get up to the end of the line and then the child kind of chicken out, or even the parent. And I know people are going to say, well, hey, look, last year they built Wild Mouse off Boardwalk. That's a family ride. And it does fall under that category of a family ride. But I'm going to be honest with you. I visited the park now probably 5 or 6 times since that ride is open. And really just looking at it, Cedar Point, I don't know why they picked this ride other than nostalgia. It has slow ride throughput. There's no shade. It is a family-oriented ride, and it's not an off-the-shelf style ride. It is custom to Cedar Point. But when you look at it, the factors that really make it appealing aren't there. Parents don't want to stand with their kids out in the July sun with no shade, waiting for a ride that takes forever to get onto, loading and unloading, and then to be spun around in the July heat, only to get off and then spend the rest of the day in the park. That's a no-brainer, but that ride should have never been installed. And yes, it's going to be popular for a couple of years because it's a new ride, but it's not a ride that's going to stay consistently popular. Sadly, Cedar Point, the only way out of this is to heavily invest in family coasters. And I'm talking about 5 or 6 over the course of the next 5 or 6 years. They need to reimagine Cedar Creek Mine Ride and possibly redo the track work on it. That ride's getting very crickety, very shaky. There's a lot of jolting in it. Iron Dragon, I mean, there's been some talks about either that ride being removed or Gemini being removed. And really, with the rides that have been built up around Iron Dragon, I don't see that coming out anytime soon, but that ride does need some work. And Gemini, there are a ton of rumors about Gemini being removed, and I'm telling you now, that ride holds a lot of nostalgia for families, and removing a ride like that would be just heartbreaking to thousands, if not tens of thousands of guests. So really, Cedar Point, you need to make some wise decisions here on rides, and continuing on that formula, bigger, better, and faster, like I said, worked for a big portion of the park's history. But now, as you continue to replace rides with bigger, better, faster, you're alienating your prime customer, which is that family category. So something to take consideration in. If you guys like this video, please comment, give it a thumbs up, and we'll create more on this, and I can go into a little bit more detail. Hopefully it made sense, and hopefully the park kind of recognizes what I'm trying to share here and makes some wise decisions as to the future. Again, if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing, and until the next video, we will see you then.